Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu podcast, episode 180. I'm Isaac Tauaefa.
It was Sterling Archer.
And we have the distinct privilege of having a great friend of the ministry, a great man of God, a leader of men, and a guy that has a little too much red hair for my liking, Kyle Thompson.
But I've shaved it, so I'm more aerodynamic these days.
Yeah.
And so you should be my hype man. You should just follow me around in every room that I walk into.
Yeah.
There's a leader of men walking.
A man of 97%.
Since I hurt my arm and took most of the beard off, I'm at least down 15% man at this point. So.
Yeah, dude, the stash is something I'm extremely...
He called me Yosemite Sam yesterday.
Whoa.
He was already late for something. It was Island time, I think he said. And he's like, "Hey, Yosemite Sam," and I was like, "I'm not even mad about it." It's like, we'll go with it.
I'll take that. Yeah,
I mean, 2 6-shooters and a gigantic red mustache.
Well, we are in Texas, and I do live in Oklahoma, so nobody would even give you a second look if you walked in with Spurs and a couple of 6-shooters on your hip.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's all good where we're from.
Well, we're so blessed to have you on, man. You've become a great friend, personal friend and friend of the ministry, and we're thankful. And thankful for the work that you do in ministry. It just in this world, there's a lot of overlap between jiu-jitsu and I have a lot of law enforcement guys, and as my liberal friend would call FUDs, lots of FUDs. Stuff like Elmer Fudd, you know.
Oh, please!
That's what he calls
is that guys that were something? I'm like, oh no.
No. He's like anybody that the guys that hunt, guys that like guns, stuff like that. He calls them FUDs.
Americans.
Affectionately.
I just call them Americans.
Yeah,
that's great.
Red-blooded Americans. But we're but that whole group of men that's they're trying to stay disciplined. They're chasing after the Lord. They're trying to lead their families well. And so there's a couple of voices that have caught on in our, I'll say this sphere in ministry and men's ministry, and you're one of them. And so we're really blessed to get to have you on and get to talk. So you have Undaunted Life podcast, and you have the Daily Blade. Is Forging Table a part of?
Yeah, so that's just part of Undaunted Life.
Okay,
so every Sunday. Really, the idea came from, I think it was 2023 or 2024. I read books for the show.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things that can separate you as a podcaster, which is ridiculous, is that when you are given an author that's coming on your show to give you an hour of their time for free so that you will publicize their book for free, most hosts don't even read it.
It's crazy.
Right? And so the questions are literally, there's an insert that's sent from the publicist, and you're like, all right, I'll just ask these 10 questions. So I would read every book, for the people that were coming on. So there was a year where I read 50-something books, for the show. And I'm not a very fast reader. And so that took a long time. And I got to December and I'm like, I've read 54 books or whatever this year. I'm the smartest man alive. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know that I've spent 54 minutes in the Bible or read 54 pages or whatever. And I was like, can't do that. And so, I'm good friends with the Duck folks down in Monroe. And so, when Phil was still alive, and they still do it today on the Unashamed podcast, it's just Phil, Jace, Al sitting around a table, maybe with a guest, and they're just going through books of the Bible. And so that's where we got the idea for Forging Table. And so, even before we started doing the Forging Table, before we had even recorded, just the prep work to get ready to discuss the Bible with a group of laymen, because me and 3 other guys that aren't professional Christians, not pastors, I was like, oh, I just sent a text to guys. I'm like, we're just doing this now. Right. And so it's going to be part of Undaunted Life. And I said, I will stop doing solo episodes and I will stop doing interviews before I stop doing that.
Wow.
And same thing with Daily Blade, 5-minute devotionals specifically for men, because men love to make excuses for why they can't train more, why they can't, date their wife, why they can't be the father they want to be, why they can't be on time, why they can't get the job they want, why they can't close the deal. It's like, there's a lot of easy ways to think of ways to lose. It's like, let's think of some ways that we can win. And so for guys that are, I can't get into the Bible, I don't have the time. It's like, I know you got 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I listen to podcasts at 3 times speed. You're telling me on the way to the gym, you can't listen to a 5-minute podcast at 3 times speed and get a little bit of Bible in there?
Or heck, in the middle of the gym. Come on, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's got their AirPods in. It's like, all right, you're either listening to, I mean, you probably listen to like, Nelly or, Nelly Furtado is what I mean.
Whoa, all right.
Shout out to the early 2000s
Unlike a bird.
pop song.
That's only
You knew it.
Yeah.
You pulled it up immediately.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is I knew it the moment I said, I was like, he might start singing.
He would,
And
right.
I bet you have a good singing voice.
Oh yeah, I used to.
He was in a band. Did you know that?
And
He was in a band.
What part of the band?
Sing.
Of course you sang. Of course
He was in The Voice.
No, it was.
How did
He
you
was
get
the
your
X
arm?
Factor.
Did you play the guitar too?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, how did you get your arm, like that arm, like over the guitar where it was like not,
Well,
like, I don't know how that's like
mini guitar.
physically possible.
Well, you just play it really low.
No, wait a minute. Was it a ukulele?
Yeah.
Actually, was it actually just like a
It was coming.
little thing? No. Okay. I mean, you're the one with the passion fruit, Jocko.
Passion
right
fruit
now.
Jocko, which by the way, shout out Jocko Fuel.
Hey,
Love Jocko.
Great clean fuel.
Jocko.
Thankful for their friendship with the ministry. And if you guys want some amazing product, you can go to jockofuel.com, use discount code JJJ20 for 20% off of your order.
They give you all 20%?
Yes, pretty steep.
20?
They gotta give me 10.
I know.
Hey, you should
Because
be
I've
good
been
friends.
drinking Jocko Fuel and Origin for like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
My people only get 10%. All right, that's going to change.
Hey, if you want to use JJJ20,
No, forget that. All right, no, I'm mad. All right, I got some emails to send.
Well, that was kind of it kind of helps one of our founding members and our board of director members is JP Donnell, so that helps.
JP.
Well, and the thing with without getting too far into it, like, I hate it when guys, like, they find something they love and then they just don't share it. Like, they find a movie or a band or an energy drink or something, and they're just like, this is awesome, I should tell people about it. And they're like, all right, I'm going to get on with the rest of my day. And it's like, the amount of effort that was put into putting these formulas together, making a clean energy drink. And I just tell people, like, there's so many things you mentioned that guys, like those boxes dudes have to try and check off. You need categories where you can just kind of turn your brain off and go.
Yeah.
So when Jocko Fuel, since I know their process, I know the people that run, their factories, I know the people that do all that stuff, all the third-party testing. When they release a new product, I don't have to think, okay, I need to compare this product. I need to compare this creatine from Jocko Fuel to all the other creatines, or this whey protein, or this, B complex vitamin or something like that. It's like, no, I know how Jocko Fuel handles stuff. And I know that, Jocko Willink, if he's going to put his name on something and it's junk, or the third party testing comes back as, horrific, they're not going to cut corners on it. And so, and again, you pay for it. And so, like, that's the thing with Origin and Jocko Fuel. If you're going to have, a good product that's, made here in America and produced by people here, like, it's going to be more expensive than going to bubblegum, .com and buying, your protein or whatever and just deal with it. That's how it is.
I'd love to get some Bubba Gum protein powder, little.
You're not sponsored by Bubblegum Whey Protein?
Yeah, it's a shrimp protein.
Yeah.
He just mainlines his whey protein. He doesn't even drink it. He just shoves it right into. Man, how did my shirts fit on this frame? I just not even like. I don't even understand.
More
content. That's large. That's a size large. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, he's filling out these days.
This is a 2X, unfortunately, but this is I'm sporting a new Undaunted Life t-shirt. You can find it at Undaunted.
Shop.undaunted.life.
Yeah. Shop.undaunted.
But only after you've bought your Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu swag off of, what's the site?
JesusandJujitsu.shop.
There it is. Ooh. Let's go. All right.
Yeah.
We've done all the shout outs now. Everyone's been paid. Okay. Marketing budget.
Thank you, guys. Well, yeah, I mean, really, and you know how it works. Well, at least for us at this level, we're still peons, but compared to, I'm kidding. We were texting last night. I think
can we just not say the word peon ever again?
No,
P-E-O-N.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Is that what's right?
I think I don't think it means what it.
I knew exactly what you meant whenever you said it. I was like, and then I just went right with it and just.
I'm totally kidding. I thought you were gonna be like, no, man. But we're not.
Just like, no, that's spot on.
We're not that far down on all of this sponsorship routes, but there's a lot of really, it's just you find people that you like to work with, people that you support, and then it makes it really easy because then you're not ever saying anything that you don't actually mean. And I think that's the best path forward with any of this stuff. So it's really easy to talk about all the things that we love, and our shops, they support good things. I mean, they help us further ministry, help us continue to reach further into the community and do more good stuff. So
that's it.
Which I'm really excited about. We'll get around to talking about the event that we're doing today. Later today, Jesus in Jiu-Jitsu event 029, which is going to be a blast.
With Josh Hinger.
Yeah, with Josh Hinger, our boy.
The man.
So, but but we usually spend a little time talking about some jiu-jitsu specific stuff. I just wanted to know, because there's a bunch of people that'll listen to this and they're curious about your game, like things that you like, how you developed. What kind of game, what would you say your game is? What is your favorite guard? What's your approach to rolling, in a round?
Yeah.
Slap bump, what's happening?
So it's kind of funny because about 4 months ago, I ruptured my bicep.
Yeah.
And so when someone gets, because that's a significant injury, especially for jiu-jitsu with, so much pulling and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of guys will get the rupture fixed and then they'll start having like nerve problems and, things aren't firing as well. Thank the Lord, I'm not dealing with that. But one thing, and I'll get to your question, a lot of guys, when they get hurt, like a serious injury, not a little bump or bruise, but a serious injury, is like you just won't see them while they're recovering. You won't see them for 6 months, 9 months. You may never see them again. And when this rupture happened, of course, I had to go. I was in my feelings there for a little bit, and you're sitting there and like you're crap. How long is it going to take to get my deadlift back? How long is it going to take to get my cardio back, or whatever? But I just kept going to practice. And so there I was in my little, grok, like robotic arm thing that they would put out, 10 degrees a week for a while there. But I would just go to practice. I would just sit there and I would watch practice. And it's because, well, I'm a member of the Forge Jiu-Jitsu. These are my teammates. There's something I can do here that's of value, whether I'm verbally coaching a white belt death match round and I'm like, I pick one guy and I'm like, hey, don't do that. No, don't put your elbow there. Like, but it kept my mind engaged because I would stay and watch the rounds.
Yeah.
And, sometimes I would watch, an upper belt with a lower belt round, or I would watch, a death match, or I would watch, a couple high level brown belts, black belts, that kind of thing. And I'm thinking about what I would be doing in those circumstances. Because imagine, going through a 6-month recovery and never setting foot in the gym. And then you try to get back in there and get your feet wet and get because I remember I'd miss practice for 2 weeks and then I would walk in and it would be slap bump. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember anything.
The mental game of it, getting back into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot, but like for me, when I'm at my best, when I'm on my game, I am allergic to being on my back. And so that's just how I think about it. And really the main reason is because, I spent a lot of time with Chad Robichaux and another guy who has since defiled himself. So I'm not going to mention his name, but these are guys that have really good guards, but they don't play it. And part of their thing and what they imparted to me, wisdom wise is, jiu-jitsu for sport is one thing. Jiu-jitsu for being in shape, for fitness is one thing, but jiu-jitsu for, I may have to use this in a real life scenario thing is very different. And I don't want my brain to default to jumping guard, pulling guard, inverting, like like you're sitting on the ground and scooting. That's real easy when you're on a tatami mat, not as easy when you're on gravel. And so like everything I do is predicated on the takedown and top pressure. And so, I've got a couple stripes on my brown belt, been training for about 9 years. And that is when I'm at my absolute level best. And because, I'm me size, I'm 5'10", 185 to 195 pounds. Like, so I'm not like, I don't have this hulking frame where that's necessarily what you're expecting. Right. Because like for someone that's built like you, it's like you would expect that top game pressure, maybe not a guard pull, maybe not some sort of like
guard a lot.
Okay, so maybe they're not expecting you to pull into single leg X or to some sort of like squid guard or something like that.
You can get on top.
And so now, because the best guys that I've rolled with are the guys that continuously put you a half step behind.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And so I rolled with the main black belt out in Jacksonville for 10th Planet, and I just rolled with everybody else in the room and just ran right through them. And then I went with him and I'm like, this is not going to be good. But it was way worse than I thought it was going to be because every 10 to 20 seconds, he put me another half step behind and it was just very methodical. And so like I was just talking about how you're left-handed. If you are passing this way versus this way, that person is half a second like trying to react. And so anyway, but my game, I really like the takedown game. Again, our gym's in Oklahoma, and so we have quite a bit of wrestlers that are, as part of the gym or things like that. In the last couple of years, I've tried to not rely as much on the double leg because that was always my thing. Hey, I can always get two. But then, you put yourself in a bad position or you get two, but then, you make a mistake immediately once you're on the ground. And so I've tried to do a whole lot more like trips and different things and trying to anticipate the guard pull.
Yeah.
And so especially when someone doesn't make contact with the foot and the hip, so they're already falling backwards and they're trying to find a place for their foot to go and things like that. Just being able to respond quickly to those scenarios. And then, you know, I've asked a few guys, I'm like, what's it like rolling with me? Like, no joking, like kind of what's it like rolling? They're like, no matter what position you're in, you are relentlessly pursuing the next position.
Yeah.
And so I remember Chael Sonnen, UFC fighter, you know, talking about training with Randy Couture. Randy Couture was one of the first guys in the UFC to weaponize pace. So he's lost quite a few fights, and you know but he would beat guys that were more skilled than he was because he would put a pace on them that was preposterous. And so with my game, you know, we roll 6-minute rounds at the Forge. Like if you've got 5.5 minutes of cardio, and I've got, you know, an endless gas tank, like I'm gonna find a spot. Like I'm gonna wear you out. Like that's my thought process. And you don't get that just from rolling. You've got to do a lot of work outside of the mats. Like you got to be on the Airdyne bike. You got to be lifting, like because it doesn't matter if you know what to do if your body can't do it. If you can't force your body
totally
to do
true.
it. And so, but
and cardio is the limiting factor there a lot of times. Just like I know exactly what I need to do, but I don't have the energy to do it. So I got to frame and wait, and then can go. You know, sometimes.
Yeah, and for a lot, like I don't like getting in positions. And one thing, like if I'm teaching a lower belt or if I'm teaching a class, is I'm like, typically someone gets a takedown and then maybe you end up in guard or half guard or something like that. And then both people have this mental agreement. Okay, let's stop and just think about this for a few seconds before they start working on their frames of defense or before they start whatever. And like I tell people, I'm like, no, when this happens, you go immediately. Like that is the very first thing. Like when you end up in this position, no, you go. You know, I was teaching a guy, you know, a half guard pass, kind of like a little leg weave thing. And I'm like, if you put your hand through and leave it there in the gi, the guy on bottom has time to figure out, oh, well, if I grab that sleeve and then tilt my hips this way, all of a sudden you just kind of get rolled over. Or you hit it and you go immediately. I was like, that is your best chance to make sure that this doesn't get reversed. And so it's pace, it's like immediacy, like, you know, talking to Chandler when he's like rolling, he's like, dude, it's like rolling with a Wolverine because it's just, you just never stop, you never settle, you never take a breath. And so
that's what he was telling me.
That's what I try to do with my game.
So I mean, and that's a cool approach. Some other people have like the complete opposite. I'm trying to slow them down. I'm trying to, you know, because like in Gordon Ryan talks about that. He's like, there's I think he called it athletic based games and control based games.
His
so like
control for sure.
Control, which is because he's like, he said he's not like crazy athletic, so he
Danaher says that he's like, he's not fast, he's not flexible, he's not explosive, like he's none of those things.
So he's just trying to control
his game.
Cool. He's trying to control the athleticism of the other person. So but what's cool is there's a mix all along those two lines. There's so many different games and styles, and I love it, man. There's different body types and cardio levels and strength levels and all of it. So you get a good mix of everybody, and especially at a gym like the Forge, man, which is awesome. It's a small little gym, but they have a bunch of killers that come out of there. So you guys have like some amazing no-gi training. I mean, you guys train everything, but I know a lot of the athletes from the no-gi side that I've seen.
Yeah, Austin Morris, Jet Thompson, like Jay Coleman was there for a while. Like, you know, there's these. The thing I like the most about the Forge is some gyms are competition gyms. So if you're not competing, you're not, you know, welcome. Other gyms are just like, you know, maybe the guy teaching's not that great. Maybe the guy running the academy is not wonderful. It's just super casual, all that. We're kind of a mixture of both. And so if you want to train to be like a world champion, you want to train to win some big tournaments, you can train at the Forge. If you just want to train a month, you know, once or twice a month and just whatever. And we have this really interesting thing in the middle of very skilled hobbyists. And so I may have already been a brown belt, but the gal that runs our office came up to me because she handles all the participation in the tournaments and stuff like that. And she's like, Kyle, why don't you like compete? Like, because you used to compete a lot and now you don't compete at all. And like, I didn't even have to think about it, because when I got my purple belt, my wife was 8 months pregnant with our second child, Eli. And I had to figure out that moment, okay, what is my relationship going to be to jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
Because I know some guys that are black belts in jiu-jitsu that are white belt parents.
Yeah.
And I was like, that ain't going to happen.
Nope.
This is my second son, you know, and it was like, am I going to keep chasing, you know, weekend medals and all that? Cause like, I'm a little weird. Like y'all, like, you know, you, a lot of Formiga guys, real chill, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I get into like competition mode, it's like I have to get into like this kill or be killed space in my brain, and then like I'm just not a great person to be around all week.
Mm-hmm.
Like after the competition's done, oh yeah, that was fun and all that, but the tension and the anxiety and all that, like it's because I try to take care of my teammates in the room, but at a tournament, like if they're not going to tap, you have to break it. Like if they're not going to tap, you have to put them out. Like, and it's just to get myself there for whatever reason, I had to go to a weird place, and so I just made the decision when I got my purple belt, like, I want to be the best guy in the room for the guys who are training to go to Masters Worlds, or training to go to ADCC trials, or training to whatever. Like, I want, when my name gets called with their name and we get paired up, I want them to be like, all right, let's go. Yeah. Like it's gonna be a rough, and they're probably gonna get the better of me, right? Because they train more than I do. They think about jiu-jitsu more. They're studying videos and all that. But like, I at least want to push them for those 6 minutes. And so that's just what I focus on. And we have a really good group at the Forge of guys that are kind of like that, you know, higher belts, all the way up to black belt, that their whole life doesn't revolve around competing. You know, they've got businesses, they've got families, they've got other things they want to do. But when they're training jiu-jitsu, they are trying to give the best look and keep those competitive guys really safe. But to give them a quality round to where it's not like, oh, it's a throwaway round because you had to roll with the random white belt and no one rolled
exactly how I feel about my training right now. I just love playing that piece for the people around me. I want to be the best that I can be, and I enjoy it, man. And I'm just enjoying jiu-jitsu for the sake of it, you know, for what it does for me, for my and the relationships, and I think, like, with our ministry, and you know this because you've been around us, but like our events, we have to have world-class jiu-jitsu, because if we don't have world-class jiu-jitsu, the guys who are just kind of like on the fence about Jesus, they would never show up to an event. If they're like, I don't know who this guy is. Okay, the guy that's teaching won a couple local tournaments, whatever. And I'm not saying that those guys are not worth learning from. You can learn from anybody, and there's a ton of skilled guys that are just competing kind of the local tournaments.
But there are levels.
There's levels, and I think that when you, like, people will receive from a guy like Josh Hinger or Dean Lister or Wagner Rocha or Buchecha, and they'll be, I think the respect level for the ministry side of it goes way up, because they're like, okay, this is the quality of jiu-jitsu they're bringing in. And then, you know, we're trying to match that across the board. We're trying to make it to where, like the guys who maybe are on the fence about Jesus would look at the type of jiu-jitsu, the quality of jiu-jitsu, and be like, okay, well, I don't really know much about Jesus, but I'm going to come because they have high world-class jiu-jitsu. So they come for that, and then they hear the gospel. We've talked about that before in your podcast when Kramer and I came up and saw you. I was really emphasizing the fact that we have to have world-class jiu-jitsu. That's a piece of what we do. But all that to say, like, I know, look, I roll with a bunch of people at our live events. People come in town that know kind of where we're based out of, and they say, hey, I'm going to drop into Formigas, and they want to roll with me, or Kramer, or whoever. And we have an obligation to, like, represent well, you know. And so, like, I'm always trying to maintain that quality of jiu-jitsu, and I want, you know, also, there's so many factors that go into, like, why I want my game to be the way that it is, but it's a lot about representing well. And it doesn't have to do with, I don't train jiu-jitsu so that I could go win some local tournaments, or even the highest in my age, like, you know, my age and weight bracket. Like, that's cool. Those are great. Those are specific aspirations that some people have. They want to be, they're chasing that medal, you know, for Masters Worlds. I think that's awesome. But my specific focus has been, like you said, just being an amazing training partner for people, always at one of the toughest rounds for these guys, and supporting them, and then, you know, letting that jiu-jitsu bubble be there, and then it not overtake the other parts of my life, you know, because
it's an important piece of your life. But when it becomes the center point of your life, like I wasn't kidding. That wasn't just some pithy quote. Like, I know guys that are black belts at jiu-jitsu that they're white belts at pursuing their daughters. They're white belts at, you know, leading their sons. They're white belts at being the heads of their households. They're white belts at studying the Bible, and it's just kind of like, you get to choose your hard. Jiu-jitsu is really hard. Getting really good at jiu-jitsu is really, really hard. Studying the Bible can be hard. Like being able to exegete scripture so you can disciple somebody, like that can be hard. Like pursuing your wife when she's acting like a jerk, pursuing your kids when they're acting like, heathens, like all those types of things. All that's really, really hard. But we were talking about that sword up there, like you get to pick which swords you sharpen, right? And like, that's like whenever I coach people, it's like, look, I'll help you sharpen your sword. I'm not going to help you find it. Like if this isn't important to you, like if pursuing your wife isn't important to you, if like discipling other people isn't important to you, like I'm not going to convince you of it. You think I'm going to yell at you and try to sell you on this idea that you shouldn't be such a douchebag like the people around you, and that you should, be more serious about your relationship with Christ and like all those different things and pursue that. If you don't have it, I'm not going to force it upon you, right? But at the same time, don't expect me to invest in those, lesser evils, or those very important, but they're the lesser loves, right? I'm not going to help you with those things. But it's like when you want to get serious about the serious things, like happy to help.
Absolutely. And there's so many dudes, I think they gravitate towards jiu-jitsu or golf or whatever that secondary hobby is, because there's a level of control and a lack of vulnerability, right? Like in jiu-jitsu, you can get good enough to where you can anticipate, you can do all these things to control your environment, and you don't have to be weak, right? And you can work your way up to that. And the feeling of if I'm going to fail, it's going to be in my own domain, right? Versus with my kids, with my wife, with a faith that I might not even be sure about, right? Then all of a sudden, like that vulnerability aspect, when that comes into view, and guys are like, where do I want to be weak? Because you can flip that question around, like, where do I want to sharpen my sword? Or where would I rather just pretend that's not a battlefront that I face?
Well, I think as well, a lot of men will use their hobby as a way to disengage from their family.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, no, I want to be the man that uses my hobbies to bring my family in. Right. So my wife's not going to do jiu-jitsu. That's not really her thing. Like she's not interested in it. Like I honestly find that like, but my 6-year-old and 4-year-old sons, like they're going to do jiu-jitsu. Like jiu-jitsu is a year-round thing. We're not going to do the year-round. We're not going to specialize in a sport at 7, right? We're going to do, travel, baseball starting at 7, or basketball, or one of those things. But jiu-jitsu is going to always be the thing that they can come back to. But like if your thing is hunting, it's like, okay, you can use that as a time to escape your family and do all that, or you can bring your sons into the blind with you. And because again, you're spending a tremendous amount of time pouring into that next generation, because that's the arrow you're shooting into the future. And if you're the guy that's like, oh, well, later, they're just a little young right now, a little whatever, later, you're guaranteed later. Like that's the idea that you're going with. Like how many of us have stories of guys that weren't supposed to die that died? And then we use the word tragic. Well, God is sovereign. There's no such thing. Like God knew that was going to happen. It's not a surprise to him. And so I think that's the one thing for guys is when you use jiu-jitsu or golf or shooting or any of that stuff as your excuse to disengage, it's just like, okay, that is a way of doing it. Yes, we have to have our own time to recharge our batteries and do all those different things. But it's like, take it as opportunities to pour into your children as much as possible, and also to get them around like-minded guys. Because what my sons are not going to see is a dad that's Superman. Whether they think I'm Superman or not. I'm going to model
that
to
cape
them
regardless.
that I'm not.
They're going to see that. They're going to look at you and be like, regardless if you put the cape on, you say, hey guys, I'm not this. They're still going to look at you.
And the point I was making was, I want them to be around guys that are so much better at me than the thing that I'm currently doing. And so they're going to be around dudes that are way better than dad at jiu-jitsu. And then I'm going to, because people are like, oh, are you so excited to coach your kids in jiu-jitsu? I was like, nope, won't be coaching them. I was like, I'm not coaching them. Like they're going to watch dad do it, but coaches during practice, coaches coaching. If I see something that I don't like and I want to correct it later, I'll do that. But same thing, I just started hunting in my 20s. Well, I know guys that have hunted since they were 5 years old. Why in the world would I pretend that I know more about hunting than this buddy or that buddy or something like that? But I'm going to have them around those men. I've had both of my sons at our Sunday Night Fight Club group. That's like my foxhole group of guys where we're reading a book, we talk about it, and then we do a little warm up, and then we train. And the thing about it is I'm trying to teach them how to be men. And what do men do when it's time to sit around and discuss? Do we mess around? Do we distract? Do we do all that? No, we sit there quietly until we have something to add, and then we add it. And then they get up and they're running with the guys. And then they're doing the push-ups and they're doing the sit-ups and they're doing all that. And then when it gets to technical jiu-jitsu time, they may go play on the other side of the mat. But it's like they're not a bother to a group of grown men because they're modeling what it is to be a grown man. Because they're not distracting. They're in the game. They're in the process. And they're also having fun because they're little. That only happens whenever you're bringing them in to the thing that you're pursuing.
I love that's a really good thing, and I also like what you said about the coaching thing because my son Zeke, he's 8. He's not going to be at the event today because he's going to go hang out with my dad, which is awesome. He's going to spend some all day time with Big Papa is what he calls him. But Zeke, I coached him a lot, in the beginning, and I was always involved kind of in his class. And I coached it. He's only competed once, and I was his coach for that. But I was talking to Formiga. Formiga was talking to me about his son Henzo, and Henzo trains every day, but he doesn't. I noticed he doesn't coach him, and I was asking him about that. I'm like, you ever get frustrated? Like when you see him doing something, obviously you have this wealth of jiu-jitsu knowledge, and you see him doing something. Not so much that he's a representative of you, but that you have so much that you could say, hey, don't do that. Do it this way. He said, man, yeah, absolutely. And that's why I don't coach him. Because, well, first of all, I'm his dad. And it doesn't matter who your dad is. I mean, in this case, Henzo's dad is a 14-time Masters World Champion, 13-time Pan American Champion. One of the most decorated Masters athletes of all time. And he won't listen to him, So he's like, so I know that he receives better when, Victoria is coaching him or Mike or, our friend Mike is coaching him or whatever. And so he will listen, he'll watch and he'll observe, and maybe later he'll have something to say to him, but he kind of lets the other people that are close to him have a say in that. Even though he does know a lot, he's going to let the other people coach him. And I feel so much better with that because I'll watch Zeke train and now, and it's better for both of us because, man, I used to get it's hilarious. In so many ways in my life, I'm exactly my dad in so many ways, which is so funny. Because when I was a kid, every football game on the way home, like sitting in the back of the van, my dad's like, man, you did good on that, play when you met the running back on the outside, but when you cut it up the middle, you just weren't paying attention, blew right past you, whatever, and oh shoot, and it was like he's trying to make me better, but man, I lived and died by what he was going to say about my performance, and so I try to not let that. But I would notice on the drive home from jiu-jitsu, I'm like, Ezekiel, you had some good aggression in the beginning of your first round, but you just all you were doing was just pulling on his collar. You weren't trying any takedowns. You didn't switch your sleeve grip, nothing, and I noticed that I started doing that. And but when Formiga talked to me about that with his son, I started making it, letting him be coached there, letting it be a fun thing for him. Because here's my thing with the fun part. I kept telling my wife's like, hey, just let him have fun because he's gonna get burned out. And I was like, look, it's way more fun to win. So I'm trying to teach him how to win so he can have more fun because then it makes it sustainable. But I think part of the game is also just win or lose. This is something we're going to continue to do. And it's a discipline and you will learn to have fun even though you win and lose.
One, you don't, as a father, you don't want to teach your kid or model to your kid your values based on your performance. Because my sons are valuable to me regardless of if they ever win a jiu-jitsu tournament or get a scholarship to play sports or become a National Merit Scholar or, ace the ACT or whatever. And so I want them that's why I want most of those critiques to come from coaches, to come from teachers, to come from mentors. Not only because I'm already trying to get ahead of the reality of they're not going to listen to me at some point anyway, because I'm dad. And there's going to be a gap there in our relationship, assuming, Lord willing, that I'm here for the entirety of that transition. There's going to be a gap in that relationship where no matter what I say, it's not going to be right because they know better.
Just too close,
But again, like I said, I'm going to have them around a bunch of guys that see the world like I do. They're going to be around a bunch of jiu-jitsu guys that have a similar jiu-jitsu philosophy to me. And so if they're coaching them in a particular way, it's going to be pretty close to what dad would say. But they need to learn how to evaluate things, not based on authority, but based on, is this valuable? Is this, because okay, Formiga could tell you something and it could be wrong for you or for that situation. Odds aren't very high for that, but he could. They have to learn how to be an autonomous human being that can evaluate feedback and be like, that's good for me, that's not good for me.
That's right.
For similar, like for certain circumstances, like there are some times where I'm getting shown something that's happening in class, and I know as this thing is being demonstrated, there is a 0% chance I will ever do that. That is never going to be a part of my game. It's anatomically not good for my body. It's not a position I would ever put myself in. That is 7 steps down the line where I'm not even going to enter into step 1.
Yeah.
But I'm going to drill it. I'm going to do it. And then I'm basically going to kind of move on. Yeah, that's just flat out not ever going to be part of my game. My sons need to know how to do that for themselves. Mm-hmm. They need to know how to evaluate things in terms of their own value structure of what's going to be helpful. And not just on jiu-jitsu, with things intellectually, things biblically based. Like, you get into the accept, reject, redeem category of like, okay, I can just flat out accept this because it's good advice. Okay, that's terrible advice. I'm going to reject that. Or that advice probably was a little tinted in a way I don't like, but that's redeemable. I can still use that.
Yeah.
And you're never going to get there if your kid is constantly looking for validation based on their performance.
That's right.
In our family, as Thompsons, and I didn't learn this on purpose growing up. It was kind of an accidental thing that Mr. Thompson did. He never cared how I performed. He cared how I behaved.
Yeah.
And so, like, I could have a game where I went 3 for 4 with a home run, a couple of outfield assists, something like that. But if on that 4th one I struck out and went to the dugout and threw my helmet and pouted, I would just get destroyed on the way home. It's the 2 things that I can control as an athlete is my attitude and my effort. That's all I can control. Because in order for it to be a sport, there has to be a defense. Like, it's funny to me when people call golf a sport, there's no defense. But if you're like, well, your mind's the defense. It's like, no, that's stupid. Like, my mind, so is eating hot dogs a sport because my mind is trying to, shove another hot dog down the gullet. But there has to be a defense.
Yeah.
So the defense gets a vote too, right? Whether that's, football, basketball, baseball, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, there's a defense that's trying to prevent you from doing what you're doing. So when you're in that sports scenario, there are other people that get to determine what happens. And then sometimes the ball bounces the way you don't want. I mean, fumble goes on the ground, you're right in front of it, all of a sudden it goes off this way, and then you don't pick it up. There's no scoop and score, right? And so all I can guarantee and try to get my kids to guarantee is that they will give full effort and that they will have a good attitude.
That's right.
And so if I surmise that they did that, I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
And so, because I want the high fives to be like, man, I could tell that you went all out.
Yeah.
You didn't take any plays off mentally. Like, you were in the game, you just got beat, right? That kid's just better than you.
Yeah.
That team's just better than y'all are, right? Hey, your teammates didn't put in the same level of effort, and that's going to happen, right? Because I'm preparing them for life. They're going to be in group studies in college, and they're going to be in workplaces where, shock of all shocks, there are people that are losers, and like they're going to just lean on other people to do their job for them. And I don't want the first time they experience that to be when they're experiencing it as an adult. I want them to see those things going up to where it's like, yeah, my teammates didn't really put in the effort and we lost. But I can walk away knowing that I could not have put in another ounce of effort. And I kept my head up and my head in the game the whole time.
And how that protects your relationship with your kid too, to where you're not the guy. And I've caught myself doing this with my kids so many times. Like you're saying, like, hey man, I've got the 4 things. I'm going to say, you did awesome at this, and this, and post game. And then I'm like, hey, buddy, hey, by the way, right? I was a basketball guy, growing up. So, like, hey, when you went for that drive, if you used your other hand instead, you would have had a clear range. And immediately they go from, my dad's invested in me, he cares about me, he loves me, he's for me, to, oh, right? And there's just that subtle switch of, man, and I want to protect that space as much as possible for my kids, so that if I just pile on these, what I think are constructive criticisms, what I believe to be like, oh, I'm just being helpful.
Yeah.
To their mind, it's pretty much just noise.
Yeah.
And the noise is, oh, my dad didn't like that.
Well, certainly, here's the other thing. The less of a loser you are as a dad, the less you're going to try to make sure your kid's not a loser.
That's right.
Yeah. And so this is what I mean by that. And so, because I watch this, it's one of the most, like, there's no sarcasm here. It's one of the most frustrating things that I experience on a weekly basis. These dads at jiu-jitsu practice that have never grappled, they never wrestled, they don't train now, they're fat, they're pathetic, right? Maybe they're good at selling cars or insurance, or maybe they're decent at their job or whatever.
Domain, yeah.
But they, for all intents and purposes, are pathetic losers.
Yeah.
And they've got their 7-year-old kid who is so tight at practice.
Yeah.
And like I'm thinking about this one kid who's really good. Like he's really good at jiu-jitsu. He's like 8. Every 5 seconds, he's looking at dad off the mat. Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? He's not engaged in the role because he's looking at mom and dad. He's looking at mom and dad. Because dad is so pathetic, he has to put so much pressure on his son to not be pathetic, because the old adage is true. The only man that wants you to be better than he was on the planet is your dad.
Yeah.
If your dad is rightly ordered, he's the only man that should want you to be better than he is or was. But if you're out of shape, if you're not well read, if you're not well studied in the Bible, if you don't do anything impressive, if you're always mediocre in the work that you perform, and your attitude and your effort is always somewhere between abysmal and medium, then you are going to put so much pressure on your kids to not suck so bad. And guess what? They're going to feel the pressure, because at some point they're going to realize that's pretty fat. Like, some of my other buddies, like their dads are like in really good shape, and then, we shouldn't get in the comparison game, but it's like, man, dad's driving an old busted up car, and we our house, we're constantly having problems. And, I go over to my other buddy's house and things seem better, right? And there's veneers behind everything, right? We're sitting in a gigantic veneer in this part of Texas, right? But like that's the struggle that a lot of men have. It's because they themselves have not tried to sharpen the sword. You don't want your kids to try to do stuff in spite of what you've done. Yeah. Like, I love my dad, but most of the things I've learned as a man has been, I just need to do the opposite of what he did. Yeah. Because he didn't have a biblical ethic growing up. His father was killed when he was 13. Like, he was dealt a bad set of cards, you know what I mean? And he played them the best he could, but he always just tried to put in the best effort he could.
Yeah.
But in all these other categories, I don't want my sons to have to unlearn stuff someday, because now they're behind.
Yeah.
And I just don't want that for them.
Yeah, I love the effort piece. That's something that I work on with Zeke too. And you're right, effort and attitudes. And every single time we go to training, so he started doing wrestling class. I've shared this before on the pod, but every Friday he wrestles with my friend Anthony. Anthony was a D1 wrestler, and he has a jiu-jitsu school up in Crum, Texas, which is kind of out my way. But every Friday he has a wrestling class, and something I love, like the first wrestling class he did, he was like red faced, like you could tell he was smoked. And I was like, "Bub, how's wrestling?" He's like, "Dad, it was so hard." Like, yeah. He goes, "But I loved it." And
that's what you want.
That second thing, that response, because I was expecting. I mean, he could have just said, "That was so hard. I don't know if I want to do that again," because like jiu-jitsu is not as hard. I want to do jiu-jitsu, He said, "It's so hard, but I love it." And now every time it's time to go to wrestling, he has a good attitude about it. And I know, like, he doesn't do everything perfect. He, like, a lot of stuff that he does in practice needs help. But I don't care about any of that stuff. And I think just overall, like, my mindset toward him, I've learned, I've grown and matured in the way that I'm kind of leading my son with training. And, part of it, like I said, is him allowing the coaches to coach him. The other thing is, like you said, praising his effort and his attitude. And I think that models for him, it's like, again, if these are the only things you truly can control, you can't control the outcome, but you can control what you contribute to this, then that is like I don't want him to learn jiu-jitsu or wrestling for the sake of just knowing that skill set. That's a good skill set to have. But like, the reason why jiu-jitsu is so effective and why Jesus in jiu-jitsu has so much momentum is because it like reverberates beyond just the thing itself. It has so many other applications to life. And I think effort and attitude being the only things you can control in life. It's like, dude, you can't control financial hardship of the economy. You can't control someone in your family getting sick, or you getting an injury or whatever. You can control what you do past that. And that's something, like you said, you're teaching to your 6 and 4.
Yeah, 6 and 4.
6 and 4-year-old. You're teaching them these skill sets that reverberate beyond the thing itself.
What are you teaching them towards? Some people might immediately default to, well, I'm teaching them how to be a man. Yes, but that answer is incomplete. And again, I'm not the only person to have ever pointed this out. It's kind of common colloquial wisdom at this point. But very few of our children will ever become professional athletes, right? Will ever win gold medals in the Olympics, will ever be, you know, at the top of the podium on something important, will ever lift up that huge heavy trophy at whatever tournament for that team ball sport that they're playing. All of our children are not going to stand before God in judgment someday. Yeah. All of them, right? And so this goes because, you know, I was a baseball kid. That was my sport growing up. And I'm looking at baseball now and I'm like scared of what's to come. Because when you hear guys like, I just had Daryl Strawberry on the show, grew up super poor, South Central LA. Hear guys like Alex Rodriguez say that if I was a child today, I would not have been a professional baseball player because my family wouldn't have been able to afford it. Because every kid's got to have their own bat. The bats are $300 plus. You know, you have to pay the entry fee for every tournament you go on, and your coaches are jackwagons. You can't just play the teams in your area. Like, oh, we live in Oklahoma City, but apparently we have to drive to Florida or fly to Florida, play teams down there, or else all of us are going to be terrible. You know, you get sold this bill of goods that, well, if you're not on the U8 team, you'll never be considered for the U10 team. And you think you're going to play college ball? You think you're going to be able to play college ball and not be on the local U12 team? Really? And these parents, you know, I know parents that spend, you know, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year on their kids' travel sports. And we're talking about 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds. And when do, you know, I played in plenty of baseball tournaments. My family, we weren't churchgoers. And when were the championship games? Sunday morning, right? And so if you're in Marlow, Oklahoma, or Chickasha, Oklahoma, or La Kiva Sickles, or wherever, well, you play well enough on Saturday. You're playing well into the night. We would play games that would end after midnight. Then we'd have to be back for the championship game at 9 o'clock the next morning.
Absolutely.
And, you know, when you do that constantly and all summer long, you're communicating to your kids that the local body of believers, the ecclesia, is not nearly as important as this game. You're communicating something very clearly to them and you don't realize it. The same thing is true if you love the lake. You love your boat, you love jet skiing, you love, you know, cruising, you love doing all those types of things. And when it's lake season, it's lake season. And so, well, I mean, waking up on Sunday morning and going to the local church in Eufaula, Oklahoma, and, you know, doing all those different things, or doing your own church's church online, well, that's kind of hard. So we're just going to sleep in on Sunday because, you know, then we got to clean up and drive back to get ready for everything going on Monday. You're telling them that this is more important than being attached to a body of believers. And then you get these fully grown up, you know, children, babies that look at the world the same way because you're teaching them a value system. So, son, I value your attitude and effort more than I value you putting another trophy on your shelf. Son, I value your development as a believer or even becoming a believer. I can't save my children, but I can put as much gospel kindling around them as possible so that when the Holy Spirit, you know, sets a flame, it goes up like a bonfire. And in those moments, I have to teach them values because if I don't, the culture will. If I don't, their coaches will. And if I don't, like, and I'm going to put people in their life that are going to help me teach them the values that I want them to be taught. That will change where I allow them to go to school. That will change whose houses I will allow them to go over. That will change whose friends I will allow them to be associated with, because I have to inculcate my values. And I, as the head of the household, have to attach my values to something that is better than a modern day philosophical self-help book. It's got to be something.
And it's got to be better than me, right? It's got, like, listen, like my value system only goes so far, right? The things that I want to hold on to, the things that I believe are valuable, like, they're going to buck up against this 9 times out of 10. Even if I want to put the veneer of Christianity around what I believe are my inner values, right? Unless they are in line with Jesus's vision for my life, they can go right out the window, and I can put all of that on display. We were talking last night about guys who fall in ministry, right? And, you know, these are guys who have, you know, on the winning scale, they're high 10s, right? And they're dudes who've done unimaginable things for the kingdom. Guys like, you know, Robert Zacharias, you know, Robert Morris down at Gateway. Thousands upon thousands of people have come to know Jesus because of their ministry. And yet, because, like you're talking about, the inner community of men around them who did not see the inner lives, who did not actually get past that veneer of what they said they valued, what they believed they thought they valued, right? And the actual values of Jesus had not penetrated to that level of not just sincerity, but surrender, right? And that difference between those two things, that unless my sons see in me a deep surrender to the person and likeness of Jesus, like, and also in the community of men that I intentionally place around them.
Yeah.
If they're not seeing that, they're going to see the boats, they're going to see the nice houses, they're going to see the trophies on the wall, they're going to see the job, whatever, and say, that's my goal, that's my value.
Yeah, man, I think, like you said, I mean, modeling all of these things for them in every area. So, like, what you value, the people that you value, who you are vulnerable with. Like, my accountability, I am following God, being wise. Let's say being wise is not hard, because the Bible says if anyone lacks wisdom, you can ask for it. And then you turn to Proverbs and you say, "Oh, I'm going to practically live this stuff out." It says, you know, one of the things that I've been living my life by for the last, I don't know how many years now, the Bible says, in a multitude of counselors, there's safety. I want safety around my family. I want safety around my finances. I want safety around this ministry and how it's stewarded and run, because I know I am prone to foolishness. I'm prone to waste. I'm prone to making dumb decisions. And so I surround myself with guys just that won't let me fall. But like we talked about, like we were talking last night at dinner about, my wife's a counselor, and she told me, like, I can only help people to the extent that they're honest with me. And so it's not just surrounding yourself with good men. It's being vulnerable and, I mean, swallowing your pride to be like, I actually need some help with this. They only know what you tell them. And so I think I want to model that for my kids. And I think what you were saying earlier in our conversation about being around these other guys that are like way better at jiu-jitsu than me, so they can have an influence on my kids too. There's another component of that I think is important. I think that your kids seeing that you're around guys that you respect too, because it's like, there's a macho aspect of like not giving somebody their flowers. It's like a weird thing. Like, I won't acknowledge that this guy's better than me. I don't want anyone to see me acknowledging that I think this guy is better than me at this thing, which I think one of the best things I can model for my son is like to see me admire guys in my life that I look up to and then say that this guy's better than me at this, but I'm pursuing this. Part of me acknowledging this is that they can help me get as good at them at that thing or better than where I was. I think that models a type of humility for your kids. That's like really important for them to see, that I think it's important for your boys to see that there are people in your life that you look up to and admire as well. And not just that you're the guy that a lot of people look up to, you know?
Well, and I mean, I look at it in a hunting context because, like I mentioned earlier, I have friends that have hunted their whole life, things like that. And so I look at that as an opportunity, because not only do I want my sons to grow up hunting and learning all those things and, you know, being able to procure food for themselves and to understand, you know, some of the finer points of how to do that. Well, I don't understand all the finer points of how to do that. And so I will tell them, hey, boys, we're going to go hunt. And guess what? Uncle Adam's going to be out there. And, you know, he's going to show us some things about the land. And you know, Uncle Adam's just, you know, one of my good buddies. Right. And so it's like, hey, he's going to show us some things about the land. He's going to teach us some different things. He's going to point out some stuff. And guys, Uncle Adam has done so much more hunting than Dad. And he's a really, really good hunter. And so, you know, I'll show you some stuff, and, you know, we'll practice, and, you know, we'll do some dry firing and all that. But so when Uncle Adam starts talking about anything hunting related, what are we going to do? We're going to be quiet and listen. Yeah, we're going to be quiet. We're going to listen. And same thing when, you know, because right now the kids class is not normally taught by your best black belt. But there are times, like, you know, they're being taught by lower belts and, you know, guys that don't have as much experience as me, or gals that don't have as much experience as me. But I'm not going to try to do anything to undercut their leadership in their life, because I want them to look at them and respect them and listen.
That's right.
And, you know, you can look at all those things, like, you know, when they get to a better age, you know, where they can start to understand money and income and tithing and all those different things. I can say, like, hey, Uncle Jake, he's done really good in business. I know you don't really understand how business works and, you know, all those types of things, but he has a big business with a lot of employees. And you know what he's done, boys? He's worked so hard to be good at his job. And because he's good at his job, all these other families have daddies that have jobs. And their daddies are able to, you know, make money so that their family can eat food and live indoors. And that's better than the alternative. And again, because they're seeing me, they don't know, like, they don't understand the concept of me talking into a microphone and then they get to eat food, live indoors, and have toys. Like, they haven't fully put that together. adults don't know how that's all put together. Like how's this even a job? But like that's just the thing is you're able to keep, just like you're saying, Isaac, push them towards people that are experts in whatever they are doing. And you're not saying like, oh, well, he's only in that position because, his dad gave him the business, or because, he got lucky, or because, he zigged when he should have zigged and it just worked out. It's like, no, he worked his tail off. He may have gotten a little bit of a head start here or there, but man, we can learn from him. And so like, that's what a good dad will do.
Yeah. Well, I know. So I want to just talk about the event, because we're actually going to have to leave here soon to do that. So event 29, 029 with Josh Hinger, who we had dinner with last night. Awesome dude.
Awesome dude.
Super fun and cool to hear about his experiences training really with the legendary team, ton of legendary teammates who are still at the very, very tops of all of their respective like categories of weight classes and stuff. But man, excited for what's going to happen today. So Josh Hinger's teaching the seminar, Kyle's sharing the gospel. People who've listened to this podcast for a long time understand how they work, but essentially we do a free seminar with a world-class instructor. People come to, some people are there. A majority of people that are coming are kind of part of our community, so they're already in on Jesus. But there are people who will be there who just showed up because they're going to get a free no-gi seminar with Josh Hinger.
Oh, dude. Yeah. I was on a flight out to Atlanta last week, and, wearing my Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu hat. This guy, a couple rows in front of me turns around like, hey, where do you train? Yeah. And as you know, the widest belt, is the guy. I trained at 4 League. What's up, bro? I don't know. That's great. No, we get to talk, and I'm like, hey, man. And he, goes down to the porch and all these other things. And he trains at a place down by the Village in Dallas. And he's like, yeah, man, I train at a place where my academy owner doesn't know Jesus. Most of the guys there don't know Jesus. I was like, dude, this is a great opportunity to bring those dudes, like learn from Josh, man, like get the stuff, man. Yeah. And hey, maybe they'll hear about the gospel. I don't know, man. Actually, I know they will hear about they'll hear about Jesus in that context. And he was like, bro, this is amazing. Yeah. And he'd kind of heard about us a little bit, but like knowing that there was something available that he could bring guys to, like that's the vision there, right? Yeah, it's so awesome, man. And we just have a unique opportunity. We're trying to steward it by continuing to foster these great relationships, but then put on these world-class seminars for people to come and be a part of. And so I'm excited today, man. I don't know how many people will be there. I'm excited. Next episode, obviously, we'll have an update for everybody how the event went. But I think there'll be a lot of people. There's people driving in from other parts of Oklahoma. Guy flew in. Actually,
North Carolina. So like crazy story. I'm at the hotel last night. I'm coming down to go get my truck to meet y'all for dinner. And I open up the elevator, and this guy's wearing the OD green jiu-jitsu shirt. I was like, oh, check that out. Are you coming tomorrow? And he looked like a deer in headlights real quick. And I was like, I think it was just because I thought it was because, I recognized his shirt. Well, he flew in from North Carolina to come to this. And apparently he's also a big fan of Undaunted Life and the stuff that we do. And so he's like, I figured I was going to get to meet you tomorrow, but like it was like he didn't know what to do. He was like in gym mode because he was going to like the hotel gym to get after it. I was like, dude, that's awesome. But I was like, no, let's take a picture, and I sent it to you guys and all that. Because when you see someone else wearing another shirt in the wild, like you have a pretty good idea what that person's about.
Absolutely, and the fact that he got on a plane to fly. His name's Caleb Howell. He's been following the ministry since the very beginning. I was looking for his number in my phone. And, it pulls up like your text messages for forever ago. And I remember seeing a message I'd sent to my wife like years ago. That was an edit to a package I needed to make for him. He was like one of our very first orders for shirts and stuff. So it was cool just looking all over. Shout out to Caleb. So cool, man. And the community is just continuing to grow. And we're, like I said, we're trying to steward it by continuing to foster great relationships and, and do things with guys like you who have a heart to see these guys come to Christ. The kind of audience. I mean, jiu-jitsu guys are all over the spectrum on the spectrum. They're all
are actually on the spectrum.
Yeah. But some of them are all over the spectrum on just personality types, lifestyle, things that they care about, backgrounds. But there is kind of a uniting thread there about discipline, being willing to like do hard stuff because they know it's going to pay off eventually. Suffering. Yeah. And you can discern that about people who are committed to training. I don't know anything else about your life. I know that you are willing to you're willing to participate in something that sucks for a
You'll
long
get on the
time.
mat.
And that's my message to all the white belts and blue belts out there. Like, first of all, you're pathetic. What's wrong with you? Be better at jiu-jitsu.
Absolutely. Yes.
But
Thank
like I
you.
told my wife the other day,
Thank
I
you.
was like, babe, I'm just done with new friends. Like, I don't want any new friends unless they're at least a blue belt. And we were talking about this one couple I have over. She was like, well, he doesn't even train jiu-jitsu. And I said, exactly. And I was just like, I only want friends that are blue belts or above. But like, all kidding aside, like with that kind of a style, when you meet a purple belt or a brown belt or a black belt, like in public or on an airplane or anything like that, you already have a pretty good idea. Now, as long as they go to a gym that doesn't hand out lifetime achievement purple belts or something like that, but like guys that are like legit, like you already know, regardless of their job, their upbringing, their socioeconomic status, their religion, you have a really good idea what that person's about, because golf is a hard physical activity, but it's not a sport, and it's not nearly as hard as jiu-jitsu, and there's no transferable skills. Me working on chipping a ball into the green from 75 yards away is not transferable to the real world. No. It's only transferable to another golf course. But I'm looking at somebody that has dedicated themselves to an incredibly rough hobby, and they stand ready now to protect an image bearer of Christ, to an image bearer of God. Like they stand ready to stand in the gap when called upon to use their body to either protect themselves, someone they love, or a perfect stranger. And that's one of the things about jiu-jitsu is, doing all the stuff on the mat, doing all the butt scooting and doing all the inversion and all the other stuff that you would probably never, ever see in a real world situation. All that's fun and good for tournaments and training. But so many videos where you see cops or just regular Joes stopping something, putting somebody in a gift wrap and putting a knee on their ribs and waiting for help to arrive. And they're ending threats before they become any worse. And man, I just love that. So white belts, blue belts, keep training, like become a real man at some point, get you an upper belt. Just stay on the path, man.
I love it, man. I'm thankful for your encouragement here.
One day.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if that's your parting thought, and I don't want to put you on the spot. You're pretty used to being put on the spot, but if you have anything maybe that you've been thinking about lately, or something that you would say just as an encouragement to somebody who maybe is listening to this in their car and they're struggling, struggling in their walk, struggling in their jiu-jitsu.
Well, it's funny you say the word struggle, because years ago I have a coaching program called Dominion where we do the 6-month kind of intensive coaching thing. And like, I don't know what it was with this day, but I was doing interviews because you have to, do an application interview to even get in the program. But I'm doing these interviews and I kept hearing these guys say the word struggle. Man, I'm really struggling in my marriage. I'm really struggling with porn. I'm really struggling with my kids. I'm really struggling at work. I'm struggling. Well, finally I snap on this guy, like, because he was the 4th or 5th person to use that language. And I go, man, you know what? Do you know what it takes to be good at that thing? Struggle. You know what? You're not actually struggling. You're fat because you're lazy. Because you're not struggling. What does it take to be in shape? Struggle. You know why your marriage is on the rocks right now? Why you're not pursuing the heart of your wife? Because you're unwilling to struggle for her. So maybe if you struggled a little bit more, you wouldn't be struggling, would you? Right? I just kind of like snapped, and then I kind of got back, from him and things like that. So to guys that are lamenting their circumstances, know that for the most part, you can control a lot of those circumstances. You can't control how tall you are, your eye color, the level of, melanin you have in your skin, the circumstances of your birth. You can't control any of that kind of stuff. You were dealt a hand, but you get to play it, right? And so for a lot of the guys that are struggling and thinking of all those things, just rewire your brain. Like, let's figure out a different pathway. But also with all the things that we're talking about, if you're good at jiu-jitsu, if you've got the great job, if you've got the perfect family, if you've got, the well-trained dog and the nice car and you're great in all these other different areas. If you don't have Christ, you have nothing. You have absolutely nothing. What you are doing is you are storing up treasures that somebody else will use one day. My pastor buddy, Joe B. Martin, says, you spend all this time trying to find and buy clothes that will someday be sold in a garage sale for 25 cents to someone who looked better in them than you ever did, right? And so it's like, is that really the world that we're pursuing? So if we're going to struggle for anything, let's struggle for Christ-likeness. Let's struggle for a godly morality. Let's struggle to be the heads of our household, to set the spiritual temperature of your house. In order to do that, you can't be a thermometer. You got to be a thermostat. And so the whole idea is if you don't know Christ, if you have not Pistuo, transfer your faith from yourself for your future righteousness onto the finished work at the cross, everything else is just window dressing.
Yeah. Amen. Well, that is super encouraging. I'm grateful for those people that are out there that are listening to this. We're going to hear from them for sure every time we do.
Yep.
Hey, this is exactly what I needed to hear. So
was that some Greek I heard in there? Was that Pashtuo?
Pashtuo.
Yeah, I mean so Pashtuo. I mean, think of it this way, just real quick. Like all three of us, when we sat down, we Pashtuo'd in our chairs.
Yes, we did.
And why did we do that? Because we used our eyes, we looked at it, we saw that looks like a chair. How do we know that looks like a chair? Because we've seen chairs before. We've transferred our weight from ourselves to chairs before. And then we took the risk of that is actually a chair that will uphold my weight. A little bit harder for you than maybe for other people.
These are pretty sturdy.
But that, had to get some sturdy ones. But you're transferring your faith.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're transferring your faith from yourself to hold up your weight and body to the chair to hold up your weight and body. And so when you become a Christian, and people can define that however they want, but that is when you're imputed with the righteousness of Christ.
Yeah.
Okay. And depending on your, soteriological view of the world, either you chose that or God chose you or whatever. I'm not even getting into that today. Yeah. But at some point you decided to transfer your faith from yourself and how moral you can be and how many good things that you can do. And the Protestant view is that faith equals justification plus works. Faith equals justification plus works. We become justified when we stop pashtuoing in ourselves for how good we are and how good we've done and how many sins we've avoided. And we transfer our weight onto the finished work of Christ at the cross at Golgotha.
Right.
And said at that moment, Tetelestai, my sin debt was paid in full, and I've gotten a righteousness that I don't deserve, that God did not owe me. And now I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to my sanctification journey and making sure other people do the same thing I did.
Amen. Come on. Kyle, where can people find your stuff? And then I'm going to pray for us.
Yeah, Undaunted.life, that's our website. I understand it's the dumbest URL on the planet Earth, but I never thought Undaunted Life would be a thing. So I went to Undaunted.com, wasn't available, so I took Undaunted.life. And then everywhere on, we only do, Facebook and Instagram, so we're at Undaunted Life everywhere. And yeah, we got our website, and then, shop.undaunted.life. You can find us just about anywhere.
Sweet, dude. Well, we're so grateful that we got to have you on today. I'm going to say a prayer for us, and we'll get going.
Let's go.
Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Lord, thank you for Kyle joining us. And I thank you for the calling that you have in his life, Lord, and the influence and the platform you've given him, and the way that he's stewarding it for your glory. So I pray that you continually bless him as he seeks to glorify you in all that he does. And Lord, I pray for this event that we're going to right after this, Father, that the gospel would go out and that it would land on fertile soil, that people would respond today, that souls would find eternal reconciliation today to you. We're so thankful for your goodness and your grace that's poured out on us, and we want to steward the opportunity to bring people to you. And so we do that humbly today, and we're empowered by the Holy Spirit to go out to proclaim the good news, and also to get after it in some training and in fellowship and just enjoying this day. Lord, I pray for all of our listeners that are out there, God, that you would be with them, you would bless them and keep them, let your face shine upon them, be gracious to them, Lord. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Well, thank you guys for listening. We love you. Go check out we're going to see you guys at JujitsuCon soon, September 3rd through the 6th. We have a big booth this year, so come check us out there at JujitsuCon. We're also looking for continually on the lookout for partnerships and sponsorships of events and podcast episodes and all that. So if you want to figure out what that looks like and hear kind of the benefits to both of us for you or helping us out with that, reach out to, you can do Sterling at JesusandJujitsuUSA.com or go to the website. There's a partnerships page you can check out.
Sponsorships book list. Yes.
Yeah, sponsorships.
There you go.
Sponsorships, But yeah, we love you guys. We're grateful for you listening today. This has been the Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu podcast, episode 180.
Go train.